Hello everyone and welcome back to KTG Armory. Today is probably the video that most of y'all were waiting for when I started this series, and that is going to be the plate carrier setups from the Battlefield 6 campaign, specifically the setup worn by our character Dylan Murphy. Now, just like the other videos, I'm going to go over his kit and what he is using. I must say it is kind of interesting to look at. I'll also be going over what it could have been, the kit that we might have been able to see, and then also the kit that Marine Raiders are actually using day to day. As beforehand, full disclosure, I am not sponsored by EA or Battlefield Studios in any way. They definitely have no idea who I am, and probably after this video, I will never have a working relationship with them. Also, as well, most of the kit on this table was provided to me by Modern Knight Productions, so a huge thank you to them for letting me use a lot of their stuff. And our final thing is that there is no sponsor. These videos are made and brought to you by you, supporting me through views, likes, comments, or if you want to on Patreon. I'll have that linked in the description if you want to check that out.
Let's get to work.
Now, concerning the kits and why y'all are actually here. So I decided to, because they did a JPC for the characters, I decided to do two other JPC setups, what we would see with the Norwegians and then what we would see with MARSOC. Let's get into, though, what Dylan is wearing first and foremost. Now, Dylan is wearing a JPC 1.0. This is already slightly dated if we're looking at modern soft, particularly if this is set in 2027, probably very dated. Dylan is using a, how best should we describe it? Generic US soft looking loadout. For some reason, game developers love to do specific things when it comes to these kits. Particularly, one of the things they love to do is this triple mag shingle up front and then the bolt cutters in the back. Not saying you don't see any of those, but it's just something they like to do, and I'm not entirely sure why. Going from front to back, what we have up front, like I said, is that kangaroo triple shingle. You have 3 AR-15 or M4 pouches in the back, and then 3 pistol pouches up front. This is a generic pouch I got off of Amazon because I'm not gonna shell out the money for a paraclete, particularly one in smoke green, because those can start going for a little bit of extra coin these days. It's not a setup that I would prefer to use, quite frankly, and not one that we see that often. We saw it with CAG for a little bit, but you don't really see this triple shingle type thing anymore. He is running over here not a CAT tourniquet. He is actually running a TQS tourniquet, and this is the soft variant that I've got on this, and I believe it's the one that he's got there. It's the same basic principle as a CAT tourniquet. It's a tourniquet, stops blood flow, but this one was developed specifically for soft, and the fact that they've got that on there is a nice little attention to detail thing that they've got. It doesn't have anything else on the front of his carrier, which is kind of good. I mean, a lot of guys like to keep their stuff slick. But since I start over here on my left, y'all's right, let's continue that way. Doesn't have anything else over on that side. He does have a smoke grenade rubber banded to the back side of his plate carrier. I think it's a yellow, or I'm colorblind, so maybe it's a green smoke grenade or something like that. But he's got that rubber banded to the back of his carrier, so I just have that there. This is a very dated setup. We're not seeing much of the map pack anymore. It's really gonna be something like this, the zip-on panel that you see on like the Pharaoh carriers, the JPC 2.0, obviously, the AVS. Just everyone and their mother has a zip-on panel these days, and you can even buy zip-on panel adapters for the JPC 1.0 to make it compatible with all of those panels. So having something directly mollied on to your back plate is not necessarily all that accurate anymore. He does have the bolt cutters in here. Bolt cutters are something that game developers seem to love adding to game characters, but they're a cool motif. They're cool to have. Running around with them and having them banging around behind you is never fun. A cool thing to have on the kit, but in all reality, not really that practical to access unless you got other people with you. On the back, right side, he has a large string of chem lights, and he's also got a rag on his backpack. Did not throw the rag on there because it's rag. Why do I need to? I would prefer to have them on my left-hand side so I can still keep my hand on the fire controls of my rifle or on my pistol if I wanted to, but having it on the right-hand side is not really, that big of a deal. If you are grabbing a chem light, you're probably in a safe environment where you don't have to, be up and ready on the gun immediately. So he does have I think it's a 40 mic pouch, but I'm not entirely sure what it was, and I wasn't able to figure out what it was. If any of y'all know what it is, by all means, leave it in the comments below, let us know what it is. But I was not able to find that pouch, and so I just left this side blank because I wasn't gonna spend the money on something that I didn't know exactly what it was, and my TISM absolutely would not let me forget about it. Speaking of TISM and forgetting about things, the radio as well. I went down a deep rabbit hole trying to figure out a small enough radio to fit in here that wasn't like a Baofeng. Just couldn't figure it out. Couldn't find it, so I left the radio off. So this is just routed into the pouch on the side. But on the whole, for his carrier, it's interesting. I don't see any, glaring negatives to it. Would I want a little bit more though? Yes, and I think that's where we can take a look at the MJK loadout. I won't go really into details, but we're just gonna kind of do a brief overview. This is what I would look for if I was looking for a carrier to set up, particularly because I'm utilizing that kangaroo pouch on the front, and then I've got my Blue Force Gear shingle up front, and then another Blue Force Gear on the side. These are really nice because it allows you to add other things into it aside from magazines. You can throw det cord in here, you can throw pistol mags in here, write in the rain notebooks, pens, pencils, whatever it is you need. These elastic pouches are really nice because you can throw it in there. A lot of you all have seen this. I don't need to beat a dead horse over that. But this is something we're seeing from MJK. One thing I forgot to mention, his radio push to talk is a U94. This is the old variant. It should be the more modern variant that I got over here on the MARSOC kit, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is the old U94 PTT that he's got. It's still seen around semi, so it's good enough for, I guess, their game purposes. For the Norwegians, we're seeing a lot of them are now almost completely over onto the Invisio V60 push to talk. This is really nice because it allows you to route to multiple different radios if you need to. And it's a relatively good system. It's incredibly expensive though, so if you can find one, you can find one. They are also using Prick 152s for the most part. Generally, I'm seeing them with the GPS variant. It has the extra little antenna on the back here. And then they are generally using all First Spear pouches. So I got a First Spear GP pouch right here. I do not, unfortunately, have the First Spear hydration carrier that you always see with their kits. That's just kind of one of their SOPs, is they have the First Spear hydration pouch. And then they also tend to, a lot of them have a Tier Tactical breaching tool pouch on the back of their kit. The MJK is a really cool unit. I'll probably do a deep dive into this kit, not in this video, but at a later video, and give it its own dedicated time in the spotlight. But I chose this because we're seeing a lot of MJK units still use the JPC 1.0, and I wanted something that was a unique kit from a unique unit that still fell in line with the JPC if that was what the developers were wanting to do. And last but not least, we've got what MARSOC is actually running. So MARSOC now pretty much have transitioned over into the AVS, but you still see the JPC 2.0 quite often. Normally it's in Coyote, but the Ranger Green is seen enough to justify this being a MARSOC setup. Now, as you can see, the majority of these pouches are that khaki, kind of like tan RCLS, FCLS pouches. Those are your standard like Marine Corps pouches quite often enough, and that's usually what MARSOC is getting. Eagle Industries supplies the Marine Corps with the majority of their pouches, and so MARSOC is really just getting pouches that your standard Fleet Marine would also get. You do, however, often get to buy your own personal pouches. This one is not an FCLS, this is actually a Blackhawk radio pouch up here at the front. This is a LBT 40 mic pouch. And then obviously the JPC is not a issued kit. This would have been personal purchase. You got HSGI shoulder pads up top, and then on the back you have the Cry turtle pouch that allows you to, add a hydration bladder, things of that sort. MARSOC is primarily using the Prick 152 now, although you do still see the 148 every so often. And then this is the U94 V2 push-to-talk. This is the one you are much more likely to see as opposed to the original U94. Extra mag pouch here on the side. I've left it empty because I do see some guys leaving their stuff empty in some instances to allow to stuff different things in as the mission requires. This front one is also empty because I could not find my right in the rain, but that's where that would have gone. Don't necessarily like throwing it in the admin panel up top because it sometimes interferes with my chin and can fall out. So I'll keep admin stuff and things in that pouch. Over on the right-hand side, obviously behind that mag pouch, you have a general purpose pouch. This would be good for your night vision, snacks, Skittles, what have you. You know, when you're out in the field, Skittles can quite honestly be more valuable than gold. On the left side, got a frag pouch right behind the radio pouch, and that kind of rounds this out as an assaulter kit, especially with the 40 mic. You could pair that with a 40mm grenade launcher or something like that. Now, this is much more indicative of what MARSOC would be using nowadays. Could I truly call this a one-to-one replica of a MARSOC kit? Not really. I would want to do probably a few more things to it before I truly called it like a legit MARSOC loadout. For the purposes of today's video, yes, this is much more likely what you are to see by MARSOC in 2025, 2027 when Battlefield 6 is set versus what you've got over here, despite how cool it may look. On the whole, if I was to choose between both of these, probably I would choose this one just because it's a JPC 1.0 and I like the form factor a little bit better. However, once we were to come back into JPC 1.0 versus JPC 1.0, I'm much more inclined to stick with the MJK style loadout just because I feel this is much more purpose-built and kind of fits what modern SOF is encountering on the battlefield and is just a little bit more in tune to the needs that I feel I would need and still has that cool factor. Well, everyone, thank you so very much for watching. I really appreciate y'all coming along with me on this journey for this series. If you liked it and you want me to do a series on other video game characters, other franchises, something like that, by all means, let me know in the comments below. Or if you thought this video was garbage and absolutely despised staring at my face, leave that in the comments as well, and I will sit there while I go to the bathroom and just bemoan my life and wonder why people are so mean on the internet. But everyone, thank you so very much for the support. If you haven't seen the other two videos, check the channel. They're going to be there for you and for your enjoyment. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next time.